Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of February 2025. Hope you're well. We're using the Tarot of the Abyss for you to be today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. It's one of the links in the description box, the first or the second, I can't remember. Please note we are moving away from Vimeo because they are, I can't say what they are, but we don't like their practices. So we're trying out a different platform, and that is Selfie for a month or two. If you are someone who buys extendeds, I would deeply appreciate if you could give me some feedback on your experience, because obviously it doesn't just have to work for me, it also has to work for you as well. And yeah, I'd like to see what we're dealing with from your perspective. If it's no good, we'll move on and we'll find a different platform. But that's what we're going with for now. And obviously, Circle is still available. The link for that is down in the description box below. So, Sagittarius, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Sagittarius, please? Goodness, right. So, we have the Empress. And we also have the Hanged Man in your recent past. What about current energy for Sag, please? We have the 3 of Pentacles in your current energy. And what's coming towards Sagittarius, please, for February? We have the 9 of Pentacles. That's rather nice. We've got the 7 of Swords at the bottom of the deck here. Let's have a look. So we've got the 10 of Swords sitting behind it. The 7 of Swords is often given to be a somewhat uncomfortable card. It's known as the Thief card, and it indicates some level, generally speaking, at least if it's outside of you, of deception by other people. Sometimes it's deception by yourself, and what I'm talking about there is that kind of, you know, those internal narratives that we write for ourselves that may not necessarily have any kind of basis in reality. Shadow work abounds and things like that. But the 7 of Swords does speak to something else. It is about tactics and strategy and plans moving forwards. You know, it's very difficult to input what is actually going on here with this guy. I have to say that he bears a remarkable resemblance to the guy in the Knight of Wands, interestingly enough, which is your card. You know, we don't know if he's actually up to anything nefarious or whether he is just, you know, getting sorted out in his head what he's going to do next moving forwards. It's a kind of a bit of one, bit of the other kind of energy. I think it's interesting that the 10 of Swords is underneath there, and we have also the Emperor. And I think what this is saying, if I am to be honest, Sagittarius, is that there are things that you want moving forwards. There are plans that you're trying to make. Now, obviously, you're trying to do that in extremely uncertain times. And so there's a question of whether that's likely to be successful or not. But what I'm feeling is that there is a cost. That's what the 10 of Swords is here, right? There's some sort of cost to what it is that you want to do. Now, are you prepared to take that risk? Are you prepared to gamble in that way? Or are you not? Are you happier sitting where you are? King of Swords underneath there. There are decisions to be made this month. And then we have the Magician, which seems like a very interesting progression. All of them are going to require you to kind of stand strong in what you believe and further in what you want, I would go as far as to say. Now, let me get some... we're going to go with a triple goddess to clarify. Let's get some clarifiers out on the table and see what this is actually looking like in practice. So, tell me about the Empress and the Hanged Man. Why is this here for Sagittarius? Fucking hell. Why is this here for Sagittarius, please? Oh, I see. Some of the cards were trying to alert me to the fact that half the pack was still over here. Right, my bad. Well, let's let that one stay out. We've got the Page of Cups. That's the right way up. I thought they were being oddly reticent. It's not like them at all. Especially not when it comes to you, Sag. Anyway, why is the Empress and the Hanged Man here for Sagittarius, please? Here we go. Right, we have the Strength card, we have the Justice card. Both of them showing up sideways, which is very interesting, but nevertheless. Tell me about the Three of Pentacles. We have the Wheel of Fortune. Very interesting. That's your card there. It's ruled by Jupiter. It's a Sagittarius card. About the Three of Pentacles. And we have the Fool. Tell me about the Nine of Pentacles, please. The Hanged Man again. Interesting. And one more card for Sagittarius, please. Why is the Nine of Pentacles here for them? It's starting to get cramp in my hands. Good God. That's the Nine of Pentacles, please. Thank you. Right, okay. So we have the Three of Cups at the bottom of the deck. We have a reversed Queen of Swords. And we also have the Nine of Pentacles. We're going to lie this sideways across here. Okay. The first thing to note, Sagittarius, is that there is a lot of major arcana here in this reading. It's, you know, some of it's on the surface, some of it's running underneath. And as we know, well, as you may not know, actually, the way that I read the cards, particularly when the major arcana is showing up in the clarifiers, is that there's some sort of undertow. Right, that when they're up in the main cards, we can see these actions, we can see these universal forces kind of working on us in quite a concerted fashion. When they're underneath, it's like we can feel something moving, but we don't know where it's going and we don't really know where it's taking us, and it isn't really being overtly expressed. Now, I would go as far as to say, Sagittarius, that February is an incredibly important month for you, not least because it seems to be entirely centred on how you achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve. But I would say that this is not a solo mission, and that's very, very important. We see that in the Three of Pentacles, we see that in the Three of Cups. And whether or not this requires an attitude adjustment from you, possibly. Can't do everything by yourself, Sag. Sometimes you've got to get people involved. I say that because I'm a fire sign, and we're all really, really fucking bad at asking for help for stuff, right? It's just how we roll. Fiercely independent as we are. Anyway, what it's saying is, if you want to achieve what it is that you are setting out to do, not only do you have to be prepared for there to be some sort of cost, but you also have to be prepared to kind of get other people on board with this. Like, this is not a solo mission for you. It's not a solo mission for someone else that you're witnessing. This is a team effort, right? So I think there's been some sort of change of direction for you here with this High Priestess, she's nowhere on the table, the Empress and the Hanged Man. The Empress is a card of Virgo. I swear to God, I'm just going to go and put myself down. Right, it's not. It's Taurus or Libra. I've just done Virgo. Clearly, Virgo's still looping in my head here somewhere. It's a card of Taurus or a card of Libra. I don't think that that's particularly relevant as much as what I'm about to say, which is that the Empress is often depicted as pregnant. She represents abundance, like true abundance. And that isn't always material. In fact, very rarely is it actually material. It's about an appreciation and gratitude for what you have, and looking to expand upon that in a meaningful way, rather than a kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for? Avaricious desire to acquire more. Let's put it that way, right? And you'll notice here that it showed up with the Hanged Man. Now, the Hanged Man is the card of Pisces. And we've got quite the sausage party going on in Pisces at the moment, right? Saturn's there, Neptune's there. I believe Venus is there-ish. Is she there? I think she's there. The Sun will be moving into Pisces at some point. But obviously, we're talking about recent past here. So we could be kind of centering this around Saturn or Neptune. And it's like, there are dreams that you want to make reality, but you've had to take some sort of turn on this one, right? The Hanged Man is about submission. It's about surrender. It's about acceptance quite often, but it is also about seeing things from an entirely different perspective. So we have with the Empress something that you're wanting to create, some sort of new situation for yourself. And then we have the Hangman saying, but it's not really happened the way that you wanted it to go. It seems like the universe has kind of intervened and sent you off on a bit of a tangent. And you're like, well, that was the way that I was going, and now I'm going this way. It's not awful, but it's not exactly what I intended. But I don't feel like there's any sense of resistance to that for you. Now, the Empress could be about what it is that you are meaningfully producing or have been meaningfully producing at this point, or the life that you've been kind of living, or what you've been grateful for, which seems to be now taking some sort of turn. And you're like, well, I'm going to go with the flow. I'm going to see what happens here, see what's going on. But what's quite interesting, fucking hell, sorry, proper scratchy throat now I'm talking to you for some reason, I don't know why, is we've got the Page of Cups here. Now, the Page of Cups is usually a bit of a figure of whimsy, right? He's dressed in a funny costume and there's, standing at a jaunty angle with a fish, and the fish is hanging out of the cup. It's quite soft. It's got an entirely different kind of feel to it here with this card. Because rather than the fish, we have an octopus. Now, octopus, octopi, octopodes, however you want to say it. Apparently octopodes is correct. Let's say cephalopod. There we go, then I can be accurate. They're incredibly intelligent creatures. But they do tend to live at depth. So they do rather represent something that is kind of unknown. Plus they have, like loads of tentacles, and that's just kind of weird. And rather than holding the cup, we see this figure, this girl, approaching it in a fairly sort of cautious way. And the cup is on the floor. It's like there's something here that we don't really want to look at too hard, but there's a curiosity that's kind of dragging us in somewhat. Now, even the colouring of the card is really odd. It's got this kind of weird sepia tone to it. But she's dressed in black. I think she looks rather like, old school Wednesday Addams, personally. So we've got kind of darkish emotions, unfamiliar emotions, possibly something kind of even slightly threatening internally to us going on, that we are trying to get close enough to see what they are. Now, is this as a response to this change of direction that's happened here? Or is this something entirely separate that happens to be coming up at the same time? Maybe it's the thing that's actually caused the change of direction for you. It's very difficult to say. But what I find really interesting about this whole section here is the fact that the Strength card and the Justice card are showing up sideways. Now, there are a number of different ways to read sideways energy cards, sideways presenting cards, but the one that seems to have been most relevant, certainly in the last few months, is this idea that these energies are present but they're not yet engaged. It's like we can feel them there, but we're not really seeing any expression of them in our lives at the moment. We're certainly not aware of any sense in which we're being shaped or guided in a particular direction by these energies. It could be that they're going to turn on at some point soon, but also it could be that they might not. And it's almost like there's this kind of balance of possibilities that we seem to be teetering on here, where things are going to flip one way or the other. Now, the Strength card is about development, personal development. It's about growth. It's about how we become bigger than the problems that we face. It's a card that represents Leo, so it's obviously fire. And it's often about taming that wilder side of us, actually. And it's the wild side that tends to run away with us and make us decide that we can't do something, or whatever, and so forth. And as we get that part of us under control, we recognise that there really isn't anything that's outside of our capacity to effect. There actually isn't. We're limitless beings living a human existence, and it is our mind that generally keeps us very trapped with things. But then we get the Justice card. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but there is quite a close association between the Justice and the Strength cards, mainly on account of the fact that in some decks they switch places. The Thoth, I believe, the the Justice card is actually numbered 8 and the Strength card is numbered 11. So there's a kind of close running association between these two, even if it's kind of understated and not really looked at very often. It's almost like they can sometimes change places, quite literally. But the Justice card is about karma. It's about consequences of actions and all those sorts of things. And I think what's happening here is there's a bit of uncertainty, and it's not like you to be too concerned about the uncertainty, but it feels like it doesn't really know which way it's tipping. Like, you're self-aware enough to know when something that you've done is quite likely going to end up in dreadful consequences, but also faithful, which is to say faith-filled enough to know that on the whole things will just work out, and if you've got good intentions towards something, then generally it's gonna turn out well. They're both sitting here just kind of hovering, and it feels like there's not enough information to be able to predict, or now predict is the wrong word, is to even get close to which way this situation is going to go. I feel like a lot of this hinges on this Page of Cups, because in part there's an examination of what it is that you actually want versus what you think that you want. I think the Empress might be an expression of what you think that you want, but the universe may be taking you in an entirely different direction altogether, whether or not because it represents what you actually want, or whether it's because what you thought that you wanted is in some way, how do we say this, misguided about something, right? So it could be that you've been in your feelings for a little bit and you're like, I'm not really sure which way we're going. I'm not really sure what the point of this is. I'm trying to demonstrate faith, but at the same time, I don't have that internal sense of where this is going, which I usually would. Just pause for a second. Thank you for your patience. I am currently situated right next door to the toilet, and when one of my children goes and avails themselves of the toilet, we end up with water noises. So it's going to all be boxed in at some point, but it's not quite there yet. Anyway, I feel compelled to pull another card or two. See, right, Six of Pentacles. See what else is going on here. Six of Pentacles and the Four of Swords. Very, very interesting, because what this is saying is even in the face of not really knowing, and that's the Five of Pentacles, which direction this is going, whether this is good or whether this is not good, whether, you know, past actions up until this point are going to, create some sort of reward that you are able to reap, or whether it's going to create some kind of reward that you're going to reap, in that way. It's been necessary for you to find some way of kind of holding that state of balance peacefully in a way that you never have had to before. Like I said, like the overwhelming optimism of Sagittarius means that, generally speaking, if there's something that you want, if you're putting out good vibes there for something, right, you can just sort of let that go, and you'll know that at some point it will show up, because this is how it works for you, right? Sag, let's fly the arrow, and it doesn't really matter whether you take a straight line to it or whether you canter around and do a few other things. Like, eventually, at some point, you will get there. And there just isn't that sense here. So you've had to find this point of balance. You've had to kind of sit here and go, well, I don't know which way this is going to go, but I'm going to find my peace in the middle of all of this. I'm going to find some way to kind of center myself, some way to create a state of balance for myself, frankly, so I don't go insane. Well, whatever the universe is doing in the background has an opportunity to decide whether it's positive or negative in terms of the consequences that it brings for me, right? Five of Pentacles there is a feeling of loss, or a fear of loss of some description, a fear of being left out, a fear of being left behind, a fear of being broke. That's definitely a thing there. The fear of not having something, right? So when we move into your current energy, we have the Three of Pentacles. And I think that this is quite interesting, because it seems, and I will pull a card to clarify this one way or another, somewhere between your recent past, which is as long ago as 6 weeks, more or less, up to about this morning when you got out of bed. Between then and right now, something seems to have changed. Now we know that something was changing over here already, and that was the thing that gave us a little feeling of disquiet. But something shifted between here and here. I don't know what it is. I'm going to get this deck over here. Not that deck. It's not complete. Let's pull out the Deviant Moon, because why not? Tell me what the link is between these 2 points. Six of Swords in reverse. There's some sort of return to something. Now, this could be an idea. It could be a return to a concept. But a return to something has happened. This. And we've got the Chariot. The Chariot's on its side as well, because why not? We would have liked to have seen that in the upright, because obviously when the Chariot is in the upright, it's talking about, swift, decisive movement forwards. But it also has this quality about talking about our internal states, the way in which we are able to balance both the positive and negative aspects of ourselves, right? It's the extent to which we know ourselves. Something here has changed. This changed first, and it caused a bit of discomfort, which is solved. But then something again changed, some sort of resurfacing of some sort of idea, some sort of return to a concept, return to a set of thought patterns, potentially. And the reason that I say that is because it's gone from being very internal over here and a source of worry to suddenly something where you are pulling, I feel, in the same direction as somebody else now. Now, it's not quite there yet. And this is the interesting thing, is it's not quite there yet, because the Chariot's on its side. It's like there's something still missing from this picture. But you have the Wheel of Fortune and the Fool appearing underneath. Now, this is a very powerful combination, for sure. It's one that is almost echoing a feeling that you had over here, to say that, the wheel of fate is turning, and there's something about this situation and the transition from one state to another state to another state, and that other state, latterly being you and someone else pulling in the same direction, to say that there's something very fateful about what is happening here. Now, the Wheel of Fortune is, I think, generally a card that indicates positive upward swings. Even when it shows up in the reverse, because it is quite literally a wheel, it's very difficult to tell whether it's supposed to be, which way it's oriented, because it's fucking circular, right? It's always going round. And it's here with the Fool, which is indicating a new start of some description. Now, it could be that the new start is that you and somebody else are finally on the same page and you're pulling in the same direction, right? There's definitely more than one pair of hands there. But it could also be that karma and fate and destiny are also fixing to play their hand here with you. Now, I like the lightness of the Wheel of Fortune and the Fool together. It seems to be acting as somewhat of a counterpoint to the more difficult energy that you were feeling over here. But I'm still bothered by the fact that this Chariot isn't quite in the upright yet, which makes me feel like there is yet more to be revealed before you move forwards in any kind of meaningful way, right? It's not that things are stopping. It's not even, well, maybe it's that it is slow. It could be that it's slow and moving very, very slowly. But let's come out here. Tell me about this. So we've got the Ten of Cups. We've got the Five of Swords, and we have got the Ace of Pentacles. Now, bear in mind that I said that we had gone back to some sort of either old thought process, an old idea, an old concept, an old way of thinking, well, whatever it is, right? We are revisiting something. It feels to me like you're going back and working out where the way that you did something before didn't lead to the outcome that you wanted. Like, there's something very, very reflective here, but it's got an immediate applicability in terms of what it is that you're trying to achieve in front of you. And what's really very interesting is that the universe seems to be very, very supportive of where this is going next. So we have the Ten of Cups, which is indicating, again, if we needed that, that this isn't just about you and what you are doing. And there's a group effort going on here. So it could be you and your family, you and your spouse, you and your animals, you and your friends. You're revisiting an idea that was left behind before and looking for why it didn't work or why you didn't action it. Maybe that's why the Chariot's on its side, actually, because it never really took off, right? It didn't really go anywhere. It wasn't completely abandoned and, decided it was a shit idea. It just never really got off the ground. So, like, what needs to change here? Well, first thing is you're all pulling in the same direction and you seem to be very, very focused, you and whoever this is. But this Five of Swords here, it's like, where did we go wrong last time? What did we not think about correctly? What did we see that we thought was there that actually wasn't? What did we not see that actually was there? And the consequences that flowed therefrom. This is really interesting because this whole month of February seems to be about unpicking, not necessarily even mistakes, but like the wonky way that you thought about something before. And moving towards a much more solid state of investment with the Ace of Pentacles to start again, to actually reach for that thing that you wanted a while ago and have kind of moved away from. And in the background, everything, the universe is paying attention to everything that you're doing and going like, yes, this is it. They're getting it now. This is the thing. I don't know if this is centered more around the idea of the teamwork, right? Asking for people for help, being brutally honest about what it is that you actually want and saying that, and also perhaps listening to what somebody else wants too. But the fact is, like, whatever you're dealing with now, it's something that you've been dealing with at some point in the last 2 years, right? And for whatever reason it got put down, no, we're not going to do that because of whatever. And now it seems to be coming back. Notice how we go from the Six of Swords to the Five of Swords. We are literally taking one step back and we're analysing what went wrong. Why did we not hit what we were looking for? And how do we set this up so that slowly we can start moving towards what it is that we actually do want, right? There's a big overarching message here about the difference between settling and the difference between a long-term plan or a longer-term plan, and not allowing yourself to be distracted in the way that you were before. Now, of course, because the universe is perfect, you were absolutely supposed to get distracted last time. But I think it might be the way that the lesson is being delivered in terms of how you choose to go after the things that you want in future, Sagittarius. Now, the cost possibly for you is going to be time. And we know that, when you're a sign that lives in the moment as much as you do, the last thing you want to be thinking about is where you're going to be in 5 years' time. I wonder if that is the cost, because additionally, the Ten of Swords talks about a particular the end of a particular set of thought processes. We'll put it that way, right? Swords rule logic, reason, rationality, thinking, communication. We've gone from the Six of Swords from a kind of like, hold up, hang on, we've taken stock, we're not where we want to be. How about this old idea that we had before? Revisiting. Then we're going back even further and we're looking at what went wrong. It seems to me that you're almost accelerating through the sword suit because you're changing the way that you're thinking about it. You're changing the approach to what it is that you're trying to create for yourself. Taking charge of it. Now, the Emperor is, because he's the King of Kings, he has got that King of Pentacles energy in there, which is much slower moving than the other kings. It's the long-term planning, the long-term strategy that we associate with things of a more pentacle nature, right? And we've got the King of Swords behind here. This has to be a conscious choice to work towards something. And recognise, at least as things stand at the moment, this is not something that is just going to simply magic into our laps. It's something that we need to take charge of. And the cost is the liberty of kind of scampering around and I guess just like trusting that the universe is going to give you everything that you need. It seems to be asking you to work for what you need now. And it's one thing in particular, Sagittarius. Like, all sorts of other things will be fine. There's no problem at all. But this one thing, this that you've returned to, it's like this is going to take some discipline to pull this off. And you also have to be consciously engaged with the process and not allow yourself to wander away from it. When we come into the rest of February, we've got the Nine of Pentacles, the Hanged Man, Queen of Swords in reverse, and this Nine of Pentacles on her side. So already we can see that the Nine of Pentacles is showing up twice. And so the question of how resources are managed being one that comes to the fore. Your resources are not just your money, but they absolutely are your money. It is also your time, your care, your attention, your any kind of energetic investment. Like, if you want something, you're going to have to focus on it, and you're going to have to work hard and go slow in order to achieve that. You could settle for other things, but we've already established that the settling didn't really do it for you, Sagittarius. There's a whole change of perspective that is required around the management of your resources, where you spend your time, what you put your energy into, what you focus on. Like, this point of attention being the most powerful tool that you have right now, right? And something that needs to be actively managed. I feel like I can't overstate that point. This needs to be managed, because the Nine of Pentacles on its side could be an indication that although things look pretty rosy on the face of it, they could be so much better. It's not that things are being mismanaged, it's that things are a little bit messy and they require a little bit of work. Excuse me. Ten of Swords, Three of Cups. And it could be that there are certain things that you are going to need to sacrifice, and maybe it might even be, your social time and whatnot, to be able to start moving towards this. There's a whole change of perspective that was initiated over here that seems to be coming almost to some kind of completion in the course of February, where we're kind of looking at the nuts and bolts of everything. And it's not, it would be lovely to sit on a branch twittering at our friends in a beautiful sunset, but is that actually getting us closer to our goal? What's vexatious about this for you, Sagittarius, is it takes you out of the moment and it's having to put you in the future. And you don't like that. That's not something really that you enjoy. It's not how that you're built. But the question is, how much do you want this thing? And what are you prepared to sacrifice to get this thing? The Queen of Swords is quite an interesting character when she shows up in reverse. So, generally speaking, the queens for me make sense of whatever suit they represent. So in the case of the Queen of Swords, it would be a case of getting really, really clear about what we think about something. But she's showing up reversed here. I think what it's saying is that there's a lack of clarity around what you have, what you want, and what you're prepared to sacrifice in order to get that. Does this make sense? So, Queen of Swords, please. Yeah, we've got the Page of Cups showing up again, as she did at the beginning. And we've got, oh, fucking hell, Sag. Right, we've got the Judgment card and we've got the Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Now, this is a really good combination for you, because we're talking about life-changing decisions that see you in a place where you can start taking some really canny action, right? Start seeding something really quite significant. But the Page of Cups again, is saying that this issue isn't actually really about your material resources. It's not really about your material situation. There's something internally that's gone on, that needs to happen here, that you are being asked to investigate. It seems to me that you're being asked to step up to the plate and go against your default nature of, I'm over here, I'm over here, now I'm over here, and go, what are you willing to apply yourself to? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice for that higher goal that you wish to achieve? Because it's kind of here for you if you're willing to do that. Now, the asking for help, I feel is less relevant than getting yourself on the same page as you have done as someone else or a number of other people. But again, it's not sufficient to be on the same page. There's something that's being asked very specifically of you here, Sagittarius. It's like, step up, and notice what, where there may actually be a lack of answers to those questions that I've been asking. What do you want? Why do you want it? What's going to change if you have it? What are you willing to give up for it? What are you willing to commit for it? And I think the answers will be really, really illuminating for you. But be under no illusion. The possibilities are here for sure, but you have to choose it wholeheartedly. And because it's not your natural way of manifesting stuff, it seems to be that it feels a little bit janky. That's just because you're not clear yet. And you have a whole month to get clear. That's what it seems to be saying to me. So I'm going to go over to do the extended now. You can join me on Self-Eye. You can join me on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not your bag, just know that we're not skipping around now. It feels like you need to get really very serious about something if you're going to pull it off. And you need to be as serious as other people, right? And willing to make the kind of changes that any one of these other people who are involved are willing to make, so that you're not just pulling in the same direction. I mean, like, you are both really heaving in a direction. I was talking to Virgo earlier, and I said it felt like the next few months were a bit like a game of snakes and ladders. The snakes very much are located inside you. Right, the possibility of just going and then sliding down, and that's where we're not willing to change in the face of the situation that requires it, right? But the ladders are there too, and if we can adapt and be flexible and be willing to change ourselves to meet the situations, then there are ladders aplenty for us to climb up, and there are quantum leaps forwards I think that it's possible for us to make in this next few months. But you really have to be pulling in the same direction, heaving in the same direction, Sag. So, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.